Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be around the world. Welcome to Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. So glad that you're all here today, and I hope it's been a great week for you. It's been a little crazy in my world this week in our agency. We have a bunch of work that we're trying to do and some problems to solve. So that's always fun, right? I always want to start out with a little bit of WordPress news, then we'll get into some questions. Uh, Again, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, please use the link that is there in the chat. You can ask your questions at any time at wpnathan.com. Doesn't have to be during the live stream, but at any point during the week, just go to WP Nathan, hit ask a question. This is just a demo site that we will use to work through any solutions we might need the website to do. But this ask a question button is there and live for you at any time where you can ask your office hours questions, and we take those in the order they are submitted. So you can ask your question throughout the week, and chances are you'll be at the top of the list for office hours that week. All right, a few bits of news that are interesting, things that are going on. Perhaps you've heard about this change that was actually announced earlier this year from ICANN. ICANN is, of course, the organization that is behind the domain name registry. ICANN has created a new policy that says beginning on August the 21st, so just a couple of weeks away, if there is an organization listed in the domain registrant contact, that organization is going to be considered the legal owner of the domain. Now, that's a change because before that, it was the individual's name in the registrant contact that was considered the legal owner. So what that could do is, like, if you have a business and one of your employees went and registered this name, even though it had your business name, that employee was actually still the legal registrant. And that could create some problems, like if they move on or do something else. So starting again, August the 21st, the organization will be the legal owner of that domain name. Now, where might that impact you? Well, it's probably a good idea to just take a look at, the domains that you manage and make sure everything looks good. But also, in general, it's probably a good thing for organizations and having the domain belong to a company or organization if one is listed. However, you may find that you might have auto-filled, like if you're registering a domain and you auto-fill those things with your business name or whatever, and maybe your business name has changed, or it's a personal domain, but it has your business in there, you may want to go clean those up, especially on personal domains, because after August 21st, if you want to delete that business name or whatever, or change it, that's going to be an ownership change. And that might be a much more complicated process than just a simple name change on the domain. So keep that in mind. Probably a good idea just to review those when you have a little bit of time. Make sure everything looks good because that change is coming. Do I have the link? I do indeed. Let me just open. This is the actual link. Well, that's a wrong link. Let's see if we'll try this again. Okay. Well, that's a bad link. This is the post status article I wrote about it earlier where it describes the whole thing. But apparently this link change, that is interesting. I would just Google, you can Google this and it will, let's just Google this. This will give us the actual link. Oh, AI mode. Well, we might not be able to find it. Interesting. I'm not seeing it anymore. It's going to be here in ICANN.org, but I don't have a link for you. It was announced earlier this year, though, so this is not something that just happened out of the blue. Yeah, that link did work earlier this week, so I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, interesting. All right. One other little interesting bit. I don't know if you saw this, but ChatGPT and their agentic AI is now able to successfully bypass Cloudflare Turnstile. So in the ongoing war back and forth between Cloudflare and AI bots, the AI bots currently have the upper hand because in the Cloudflare agent, in the process of doing whatever it's trying to do, is able to check the "I am not a human" box and pass that validation, even though it is in fact a robot. So back and forth go the AI wars. That's kind of funny when it comes to this agentic AI, but it's not good news when it comes to spam bots that might be using similar processes to create spam, or bad actors doing bad actor things can bypass those turnstile things. So that's definitely one to watch. All right, well, let's dive into some questions, shall we? Looks like we have 12 questions in the list. And Sherry, I do see your question, and Elizabeth, I see your question as well. So the form is working as expected. And if you have a question to ask, please use the link that is there in the chat. All right, so if you're new with us for office hours, it's going to be a mix of business-related and technical questions. And I always paste the question here in this little block just so you can read it along or read it as we're going. We found that's a little makes things a little easier to follow. All right, first question out of the gate is a holdover from last week. It is from Jeffrey. I don't see Jeffrey in the attendee list today, but we shall endeavor to answer his question. Jeffrey says, now that we're using AI to do, I guess, great, amazing things for our sites that often don't require plugins with support teams, what should we consider as far as updates and security? I guess we should make sure to test our code on a staging site like we should with plugins during updates to make sure it works. But what about security? What are the risks of trusting Claude or ChatGPT with the security of our site? Obviously, a good security plugin should protect us in some ways, but they are not trained in custom code. That is correct. And this is an excellent conversation. Jeffrey, I hate that you're not here because I'm grateful that you brought this up. So using an AI tool to create code has inherent risks. Now, you can oftentimes have your coding tool of choice. Once you've created some code, you can say, analyze this for security. If you were in my AI live stream last month, part of the saved instructions that I give ChatGPT is to create the code with best practices for security in mind and so forth. But it's a good idea, especially if it's an extended amount of code, once it's created and working, to ask your AI tool to go back and check for any potential security issues or performance issues. And sometimes it'll refactor some of that code for you. But this is the inherent risk. If you are not a developer, then you don't know whether it's actually secure or not, right? So this is a risk of using an AI tool to generate code, or really to do anything that you personally aren't proficient in. So, it's part of the risk. So can you maybe save a few dollars by not hiring out coding to a developer? Sure. Maybe. What's the risk in that? You might have security issues, right? So maybe it's worth having a relationship with a developer who could analyze your code if there's a concern about that. And really, my concern is going to grow with the complexity of the code. If it's just a little code snippet, you're probably going to be okay. Because generally, it's just your AI tools are going out and looking at sites, GitHub, other sites that just have these code snippets out there, and they're just borrowing those and factoring them together to create what you're wanting to do. But if it's a large thing, a bigger full plugin, something like that, I would be very careful before or creating something like that without having a legitimate developer taking a look at it. So, it's like having ChatGPT write your web contract without having it vetted by an attorney, right? It's one of those things. Like, we don't know what we don't know, so we need to have a professional come in that has that expertise. Yeah. So really excellent question. There's one thing here that I do want to address. A good security plugin should protect us in some ways. Let's talk about that for a minute because I'm not sure that most WordPress security plugins are going to offer protection for custom code. Even the really good ones rely on firewall rules, whether it's something like Solid Security using PatchStack or WordFence or some of the other ones that have their own firewall. Those firewall rules are created for known existing plugin vulnerabilities, not for your own custom code. So I don't, a good security plugin might prevent some of the things that need to occur to exploit your code, like making sure user logins are secure, those sorts of things. But it's not going to look at your code and determine a vulnerability or catch a vulnerability happening necessarily. So yeah, it may take. Melanie's mentioning something about host maybe flagging custom code. Yeah, it host server level tools might catch some of those things. But in general, a WordPress security plugin is probably not going to do that. And honestly, I don't know that I would want it to, because that would mean it's trying to scan files and do things that a plugin really shouldn't be doing. That's going to take a lot of overhead where those things ought to happen at the server level. It's one of the reasons hosting.com, for example, uses Immunify 360 as a server level malware scanner that's running and does a really good job of it. Okay, Jeffrey, thank you for that question. Really glad you asked it. Great discussion. All right, next up is Sue. Hey, Sue. Ah, yes. Okay. So, Sue, this site, WPSecurityAnalyzer.com, analyzes site security. I did one site and it's pretty secure, but I got the following. These are missing from the header notices. I'm not familiar with some of them. Do you include these in your sites? And if they're prudent to include, is there a plugin you know that adds them? Okay, so I've seen these two. These are security headers that are, it can help, for example, keep cross-site scripting attacks or maybe mitigate the potential of cross-site security vulnerabilities a little bit. So like on the level of things that I would be concerned about, these are not urgent. Okay. And the reason, like you can tell that because many of the leading WordPress security plugins don't necessarily add these things. So like they're helpful, but not essential. So does that help you kind of categorize these things, Sue? It's much better that you have, really good server security, WordPress level user security, network level Cloudflare type security rules. Those are the big important things. But the actual security headers, important but not urgent. So Stacy is correct. You don't just want to add this stuff unless you fully exactly understand what they're doing, because you could break the site because this is allowing things to execute and so forth. So let's just take a quick look. I'm just out of pure curiosity what it finds at wpnathan.com. All right. So we are running through Cloudflare. It was able to scan it. I've noticed that Cloudflare might sometimes actually block scans like this, thinking it's some sort of bot. But this one did go through. Scrolling. I think all those notices are down here at the bottom. All right. So it looks like we've got most of them. This is probably like there's nothing I did to add these. So this may be coming from Cloudflare and my settings in Cloudflare, but it doesn't have a strict transport security or content security policy. And in particular, these two are things that if you don't get it exactly right, could prevent some of your content from correctly displaying. So as I understand it, I would not call myself an expert in all these things at all. So it's interesting to me that all these things were addressed, and the only thing that could be doing it is Cloudflare. So Sue, I'm not sure if I've fully helped you or not. Is there any other nuance to this that you want to talk about, or anybody else want to add something or ask a related question? Drop that in the chat. This site, if you want to take a look at your own site, it's pretty cool. WPSecurityAnalyzer.com gives you a lot of interesting information. All right. Well, let us move on to the next question. Class is up next. Hey, class. All right. Here's a question in regards to domain and email. Domain 1 is registered with Cloudflare and set to redirect to domain 2. So it only has the minimal DNS records at Cloudflare. Yep. Now we want to use Google Workspace email for domain 1. So I'll add the Google required records in the DNS. Will email work even if the domain is redirected at the account level? So class, you have redirected, you set up a redirect rule. It shouldn't have been at the account level. It should have been at the domain level, right? Yes. Okay, here we go. So let's just say this is your domain 1. If we want wp1.dev to redirect to WP Nathan, we would go here. We would go to rules. We would go to page rules, I believe here, and we can create a redirect here. So, whatever goes to this next spot. Is this how you did it, class? Because if so, that's, you're going to redirect the root domain and the www to your other domain. Now, your question, so the required records for DNS for Google Workspace is going to be your MX records and a couple of validation CNAMEs. Your redirection should not impact that at all. And then, if you added a CNAME for like mail.domain1.com so they could go there and access their email, you can do that. You just want to make sure your redirect rule is only redirecting web traffic. So root domain and the www get redirected in your redirect rule. Mail would just follow its own route. Does that sound good? Yep. All right. Yeah, you once you add the MX records, that's really the most important thing. Because the MX records tell the domain, what do I do with email traffic? That tells the name servers where to push that email traffic. All right, next up is Beth Livingston. Hey, Beth. Okay. Regarding your post status article on check the company name. Okay, we talked about this. I will admit that I am a domain hoarder. Okay, pausing. Anybody else out there, domain hoarders? Give me a yes in the chat. Be honest. Beth has 66. Anybody want to guess how many domains they have currently that are personal to them? Anybody beat 66? Okay. So as that little as that conversation goes, I don't register domains for other people. I register all my domain names at Cloudflare, where all the who is info is under my personal name. Should I update anything to show my company, Rock High Development LLC, in one of those contact sessions? Of course, all of the who is info is redacted by Cloudflare, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so it does matter. Let me answer it this way. Since you own your company, it probably doesn't matter, practically speaking. However, the domain name, and this is where this is really a lawyer question, because let's say you get sued, right? And part of the thing with, having a corporation, an LLC, is that it gives you some personal protection from, lawsuits, right? But a lot, if if you ever went to court over something, the opposing attorney is going to do what they call piercing the corporate veil, meaning like, can I get through this LLC shield to the actual person who may or may not have assets? And so things that when you intermingle personal and business things, this is what can go towards that piercing the corporate veil. Now, again, I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. I'm a web developer. You should have a great attorney. And this is a question for that kind of person. But I'm just giving you my understanding based on this question. If perhaps your domain name that's used by the business is owned by you personally, that might be an intermingling of personal and business. Now, I don't know that for sure. That's something that I would consider in this. So I would probably have my business-oriented domains owned by the business and in personal domains owned by me personally. That's what I would do. And that's what my plan will be as I start actually looking at all the domains I have. I don't have quite 66. I let a lot of them go when I migrated from an old classic registrar to Cloudflare for domains last year, but I probably have 30 or 40. Many of them are in use, but not all of them. It would be a quick change, Beth. I don't think it would take very long to make that change, but I would definitely do it prior to the deadline because we don't know what it's going to look like after the deadline, but it could trigger a change of ownership process, which takes a little while. It's a great question. All righty. Next up is Jeffrey. Jeffrey, I saw that you popped in, and it was right after we answered your question that was a holdover from last week regarding AI and code. So you can catch that on the replay. Question from Jeffrey for this week. Do you, it's funny. Do you add a security headers policy in your htaccess, or do you think that Cloudflare offers sufficient security? So Jeffrey, okay, is there any nuance to this question that we didn't answer before? Looks like Cloudflare adds all that, aside from those two that we showed, which are the trickiest, it adds a lot of them. Yeah. All right, next up is Bonnie. Hey, Bonnie. All right. Bonnie says, I missed the SEO section. Did Daphne talk about AI replacing Google SEO? Kim Commando's tech newsletter this week said SEO is dying. Any thoughts? All right. So I too missed the SEO live stream earlier. However, that video is out. It is in the YouTube channel. And if you are in our Slack group, Katie posted it as well there. So you can definitely grab that video here. Thank you. Katie's got it for us right there. So that video replay is out and ready. And from everything I've heard, it was a fantastic live stream. I will go back and watch that myself. But just to answer this particular question, I have heard SEO is dying for years now. Okay. So the first question that comes to my mind is, what do we mean by SEO? Right? Because SEO means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Everything is dying in one sense or another. So is SEO dying? Well, okay, if SEO is things that I need to do to my website to make it digestible so that Google and other search engines can organize the information well, is that dying? Absolutely not. Is old school weird little tactics for SEO dying? Not dying, but it's changing, right? SEO is always changing. It has changed since I started looking at SEO 10 plus years ago, right? So it's always changing, but as long as there are search engines, there will be SEO. There's the quote, okay? As long as there are search engines, there will be SEO, because the search engines need to understand your information. And so there will always be some level of optimization that is needed for your site in order to have it indexed correctly, right? That's SEO. Now, there are a lot of other acronyms that are coming into play now, like and I've lost it. GEO, which is generative engine optimization or whatever. In other words, how do I optimize my content so it shows up in Google AI overviews and in um, AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude's answers to questions? There are ways to do that as well. It's called GEO, and you can read about that. That's a very new, it's a new-ish science to getting your information indexed that way. So yeah. Oh, okay. So Bonnie, you're saying that she's referring to GEO. Yeah, and yeah. So the other thing you have to remember here is that all of these folks, like Kim Commando's been around. God, how long has Kim Commando been doing her thing? Like forever and ever, right? And now there's 1,000 Kim Commandos out there. Um, everybody is, it's all clickbait, right? Like, what can I do? What can I say with some provocative headline or whatever to get eyeballs on my content? And so that that naturally lends itself to people creating very, it's not dishonest, but is SEO dying? No. I mean, not, it's changing, but it's always changed, right? So just when you hear these things like this, just take it all with a grain of salt. Content creators got to have eyeballs on their content, period. And so they're going to create things that try to get eyeballs. I would probably need to digest her newsletter to understand what she meant by that. SEO is dead. Oh, she said SEO is dead. I disagree with that. Interesting. It is changing, but it's always changed. However, as Melanie just mentioned in the chat, it's changing more rapidly now than perhaps ever before. So have we beat that horse enough? I think we've covered that pretty well. As long as there are search engines, there will be SEO. Okay. Next up is Beth Livingston. In fact, on the same topic, I recently learned that traditional SEO may no longer be enough, and there is a specific way to structure content and off-page stuff for generative engine optimization. What, if anything, are you doing for your client sites or advising them to do in order to optimize for GEO? Nothing. I'm not touching any of that right now. So what we're doing is when we build websites, our process and tactics have not changed. So we do not do SEO as an agency. We work with other people who do SEO. And everything that I am reading, it all still comes back to Google's EEAT, right? Which I'm not going to try to remember what those things stand for, but it's basically good, authoritative content that speaks well to your audience, for the intended audience, right? Not text that's generated to try to get search engine traffic, but actual good, authoritative text that the people who are looking for it, like it answers their questions, right? That's always been the way to do SEO. So GEO is such a new thing. Like, and here's the thing. People who are in this SEO battle, and the ones, when you say SEO is dead, well, it's talking about people that are always trying to find the little round the tree types of black hat, gray hat tactics that might inch them up a little bit this month in Google, but it might completely kill the site next month when Google makes a change. Those little tactics, that is not the way to do SEO, GEO, or whatever other alphabet soup that you want. Good, reliable, authoritative content that speaks to the need is always going to be at the core. And so I'd be afraid to make a bunch of changes trying to get GEO results that would in some way change a good authoritative content approach. So, gosh, you might do something to get a little extra traction in generative optimization this month, but next month and Google changes the rules and you might get killed for that. It's just, I would not do that. It's too new. But also, I'm speaking outside of my area of expertise. I don't know any of the SEOs that we work with that have radically changed anything to try to get generative traffic. If anybody has more insight on that, please drop it in the chat. It's a great question, and it's something that's, We're only going to keep hearing about this, right? All right, we have 5 questions in the queue. So if you have a question to ask, we should still have time for a few more. You can use the link in the chat to answer those questions. All righty, next up is Paul. Hey, Paul. When a site has a critical error, the site will send an email to the admin email, usually. What happens when the error might affect the sending of email and there's no entry in the error log file? How can we find out what went wrong? Great question. So the only way that I'm aware that you can do that, Paul, is to turn on debug and try to reproduce the error. If the critical error prevented the sending of that email, then it's going to be really hard. And if it didn't log the error, it's weird. But if you turn on all the debugs, debug log, WP debug true, debug log true, you ought to be able to see that. Now, if it was a PHP error, your server log might have recorded that. But it depends. Sometimes those errors aren't logged at the server level. And you would have to know where those are located, or get your host involved to get you the Apache or PHP log for the site for that period. They are often very, very large. So having a time frame is critical for that. I would first try to turn on debug, and because that's usually going to show you all the stuff right off the bat. Yeah. Anybody have other thoughts for Paul? All righty. Next up is Beth Livingston. All right, Beth says, I'm rebranding the WP Project Managers Academy to Project Management for Profit, and I am now rebuilding the new website. The training here is going to be much less formal and relaxed and hopefully fun, because project management is kind of a boring topic. So what do you think of naming the About page About Beth? Does that come off as prissy? All right. Let's take a poll in the chat. So if you are looking at a website that was going to teach you project management, would you want the About page to be personalized about the person behind it, or would you want something different? Ooh, look at the mixed bag. Interesting. Okay, it's leaning more toward personalized. Interesting. So I think, yeah, interesting. So the About page for this academy, Project Management for Profit, ought to talk about the academy, or the whatever, if you're not using academy, whatever you're going to call it. Like, it's about the academy. That include, like, it's a Venn diagram, right? Like, about the academy also includes a little bit about Beth. So I would probably position it that way. When I go to About, I want to understand, what is this entity about? We're here to teach project management, so you don't blah, 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 whatever problems that this company organization solves. And by the way, here's Beth Livingston, who has, all the letters for project management and all the things, all the experience, that sort of thing. So I think it's both. I don't think it's either or. I think it's both. But Beth, your expertise in that area is critical to showcase on that page. But I would make it part of the About story. Just remember that a good About page doesn't talk so much about you or your company as it does your ideal client, your ideal student, and how what you offer and what your organization does can help them achieve the goals that they want. That's a good About page. It can talk about your credibility, but it all needs to be positioned under the, with the angle of, these are the things that we do that help you accomplish your goal, right? That's a story brand approach. All righty. Yeah, what's in it for me? That's great. All right, next up is Elizabeth. Hey, Elizabeth. All right. You mentioned that you use Cadence and Beaver Builder. I do. I have just migrated a live site to a staging site, and I am changing the theme to Cadence. I use Beaver Builder on all my sites and am comfortable with it. I did try the Cadence blocks and templates, and it's just so confusing. How are you using Cadence with Beaver Builder? Blocks or Beaver Builder? Can you combine them? You absolutely can. And so, all right, here's the thing. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but this answer can apply to any stack, whether it's a theme with a page builder or a theme with a block set. All of this whole conversation applies to all of that. Number one, Elizabeth is comfortable using Beaver Builder. She's been using Beaver Builder, whatever your tool of choice is. Those of you that have been around listening to me for any length of time, you've heard me say, do not change your stack. The stack doesn't change unless there is an important business reason to change the stack, not just chasing the next new shiny thing that's coming along. And I know there's 100 different page builders and block tools and whatever etch is. All these things are out there, right? Don't just chase the new shiny unless there's a business reason to make the change. Otherwise, you're going to be spending all your time learning new tools, and you're going to have all these websites that you've built and you're trying to manage that are in different stacks. Having a single stack where most of your websites are running the same theme and plugin stack, I cannot tell you how important that is. Okay, so that's not your question, Elizabeth, but I want to get that. That's the foundation, right? So how do I use these particular tools, Cadence and Beaver Builder? So I like Cadence. I think it's a well programmed, light, fast theme. We use Cadence primarily for theme structure, and we use Cadence elements for some things, but the Cadence header is very important because just out of the box, Cadence and other really good themes like Generate Press and some of the others, they are the headers that you build are going to be accessible out of the box. They just work fantastically well for accessibility. So from that, as we're building out complex page structures, I'm with you. I don't like blocks for that. And again, that's just me. We've tried it. It takes us longer that we don't have the capabilities we have in our own tool set. There's not a good business reason to move to blocks and away from Beaver Builder for us for actually building pages. Would we choose Beaver Builder if we started again today? Maybe. There are certainly some others that we would take a look at, but there's not enough of a reason to push us out of Beaver Builder and into something else for our project stack. Does that all make sense to everybody? So we use blocks in posts, for example. I really like the block editor when it comes to dealing with post content. It's great. It's way better than the classic editor for managing post content. And even clients, our clients who add posts have no problem in general with the block editor. It's much more capable for editing post content, but that whole page is controlled by a Beaver Builder layout. So that's how they integrate for us. Does that make sense? So Christine, if you can't figure out how to do both, most of your page builders, whichever your page builder of choice, will allow you to turn it on and off for certain post types. So for us, we turn on Beaver Builder for pages. We turn it off for posts. Elizabeth says, I'm missing out on something and I'm going to be forced into blocks in the future. Are you missing out on something? Well, I mean, I don't know. I've been hearing page build. It's like SEO is dead. I've been hearing page builders are dead now since, my gosh, when was that? 2018, when the Gutenberg editor was announced at WordCamp US in Nashville. I've been hearing it for years now, and page builders are just as popular today as they ever have been. in some cases more popular. So I find it very, very difficult to build the level of customized website that we build as an agency using a block tool. And we've tried them. Yeah. What about the templates? Elizabeth, are you talking about the templates that your page builder provides? We don't, for us, we don't really use those. Um, oh, the starter sites that Cadence provides. So Cadence and others, Generate Press, other themes, give you these starter sites, and they're going to be built with blocks generally. Full site editing. Now, Shanta, that is interesting. Many of the best themes, like the ones that I've just mentioned, Cadence, Astra, Generate Press, the big popular themes that are out there, don't support full site editing because it's a complete rethinking of how everything works. I'll tell you what, if you want a really great full site editing theme to play with, look at the Ollie theme. Ollie WP. This is a fabulous theme. And it's all full site editing. They have some templates and so forth set up, and you can build beautiful websites with this. It's just you're going to have to relearn WordPress in a sense because the site editor is very different than what you're used to in the customizer. So you'll have to figure out where everything is again. That's just part of the deal. All right. Well, that's been an interesting discussion. Any other nuances to that, Elizabeth? Did I answer your question? All righty. Well, let's move on to the next question. It is from Ben Bradley. Hey, Ben. All right. For a video production company website that just shows their own portfolio on their website, would you recommend going the R2 on Cloudflare route for video playback or video embed? Okay, let's think just for a minute here. Their own portfolio. So Ben, these are going to be like little reels of their greatest hits, those sorts of things, right? Okay. Does that company not have Vimeo already? I would use that or YouTube, use YouTube, make sure you add some good titles and descriptions and you'll get an extra source for your SEO, right? And it really depends on like the delta between do I go Vimeo or whatever or YouTube. These are not videos that are private per se, right? Like putting these types of videos on YouTube is going to be beneficial. Is there a speed increase? I mean, this is going to be video blocks on a page, right? Where somebody clicks them and they play. So the issue there for speed is going to be what are you building this in, Ben? What tool are you building the page in? Because whatever is going to hold that video, the speed issue is going to be, can I have it just load the thumbnail and you click the video and it pops up into a modal to play the video? In other words, the page isn't trying to load all those videos when it loads, right? And there are blocks, there are page builders, video modules that will do exactly what I'm describing, where it's just going to show the thumbnail and it doesn't download the whole video or start streaming the video until you click the play button. So in this case, I would not use R2 for this because you're probably going to end up paying for storage because they're probably going to be larger, high quality videos. You could end up paying for storage. Whereas background videos, like a perfect case for Cloudflare R2 storage is a background video. But I would put these on YouTube, title them well, put some good description in there so they might get some additional search traffic that way. Ben, did that get your question, or is there another piece of that that you want to look at? Oh, second part of the question. Also, as background video is a complete no-no from an accessibility perspective. Would you recommend not to use background video, or in this instance, would you let the client decide? I'd let the client decide. Yeah. Your role is to inform them on accessibility best practices. But in my experience dealing with companies like video producers, they want the gee whiz factor on their website. So just educate them and let them make a decision. All right. Paul says he has a client that insists on background video with audio. My goodness. That sounds fun. Thankfully, most browsers will turn off that automatically playing audio these days, Chrome in particular. All right. Next up is Sherry. Hey, Sherry. Possible client project, coaching groups. Might become a membership model, still working out how she wants to deliver her training. The question, does Slack allow you to limit access to groups of people? As cohorts complete and you limit access after a certain time versus everyone has access to other channels. If it becomes a membership and content is gated, what plugin would be best? Okay, let's do one thing at a time here. All right. So first, does Slack allow you to limit access to groups of people? Sure. Kind of. Like, it depends on how you want to set this up. If you put everybody in a Slack group, then you could create a private channel for a cohort, as you're describing. It would be a manual process to add them and remove them at the end of the cohort. So you're saying you're looking at a simple solution to start? That'd be super simple to do. You might even be able to do some sort of automation with that later, but probably it would be easy, when the cohort starts, get them into Slack, add them into that private group, and then they're good. At the end of the cohort, you can just delete the group if you want to, or pull them out, or however you want to do it. That will absolutely work. If it becomes a membership and the content is gated, what plugin would be best? Okay. So this is a great question. So a good membership plugin is going to do two things. Number one, and most importantly, it's going to handle membership payments and renewals. That's the big piece of a membership plugin. So it's like a subscription plugin, but it also combines access control. So a membership plugin ought to have solid access control and a subscription system built into it. So there's so many today. The ones that I would recommend are the usual suspects, right? MemberPress is really good. Ultimate Member is good. Member Dash, which is the new LearnDash plugin that works with membership. There's a bunch, and some of them are better than others. And honestly, probably any of them are going to work just fine for you. Thank you, Kay. Fluent Community is also a good option. Fluent Community is bigger than a membership plugin, and it doesn't do membership per se. You would need a membership plugin that works with it, but it could be a great place for your members to be if you wanted to build it out more. BuddyPress is a nightmare, but it does work. BuddyPress and GamyPress, yes. Or BuddyBoss, yeah. So all of those, Fluent Community is like BuddyBoss, is like BuddyPress. BuddyBoss is probably the most developed, but here's what I'll say. For any of those types of plugins that are going to build your own little social network, hosting is absolutely critical as you start getting any degree of engagement. Because think about it, every single post to a thread, to a forum, a direct message here, and all that stuff is individual items in your database. And that database is going to get gigantic. So hosting is going to be absolutely critical. I neglected to mention Paid Memberships Pro, which is the one that we're favoring at the moment. I really like Paid Memberships Pro. Yeah. Video, best place to store video. So the question here again is related to, do you need to protect? So is this, Sherry, is this video proprietary video that you have to pay for to access? Is it members only video? Or is it the world can see it? Okay, it's members only video. Then absolutely I would put that in Vimeo. If they have it would just be good for them to invest in an account, because you can lock it down easier. You can control how it looks better. It's much easier to, we had it one time for a coaching, a client, one of our website clients who was a coach, that's what I'm trying to say, who did regular Zoom sessions. We had a whole automation built that would pull the video out of Zoom, post it in Vimeo, and it would appear automatically on the website, lock down all the things. It was great. Worked really well until she changed her model and wasn't able to use that anymore. So I would look at probably Vimeo for that. You could use YouTube private videos, but Vimeo is probably the better choice. Like Kim is saying, cleaner, less ad spam. Yeah. All right. So does that help you, Sherry? Oh dear. I just accidentally closed all the windows. Give me just a moment. I command queued my browsers and they all went away. All right. Next question in the list. All right, this is the last question. So if you have a question to ask, we can stay around for a couple of more if you have them. Link is in the chat. Final question so far today is from Tanya. Tanya, can I get a woo-woo? All right. Do you use geolocate in Woo general settings for default customer locations? Yes. Yes. Settings options, no location by default, shop country region, geolocate with page caching support is the option. So let me get the WooCommerce settings, set up. So generally speaking, we do use geo simply because here's how I'll answer the question. If the e-commerce store has location-based shipping, like live rates with UPS or USPS or whatever, FedEx or whatever DHL provider that you use, if there are location-based live shipping rates, I would definitely go geo. If the shipping rates don't matter, then it doesn't matter. Like if you have flat rate shipping or free shipping or, tiered shipping levels where the customer's location doesn't matter, then any of the other options are fine. But as it is, let's see, it is shipping, I believe. Is that right? No. Hang on. I've lost it. They moved it. Oh, is it under advanced now? All right, somebody want to save me here? Where is it? I thought it was under general. Right here. So I would assume you're using page caching on your WooCommerce site so that it's actually reasonably fast. This is the one, right? And so when you do this, you'll go out to the MaxMind database and get your free key, plug that in, you're good to go. That's the one if you need live shipping. Now, because what that's going to do, and you may have seen this before, when you go to the cart, if you've got a shipping preview over there, it's just going to, if you don't have geo enabled, it's going to pull from the shop location. So the shipping cost is probably going to be lower there until the customer puts their zip code in or their postal code if you're wherever you happen to be around the world. So you could end up frustrating customers when it shows one shipping cost in the cart. They get to the checkout and they put in their address and the shipping goes up, right? So you want to avoid that. That's why it's better to go ahead and geolocate them as best you can to give them a more accurate shipping rate. All right. So does that help, Tanya? Is it always free? Yeah. Yeah. The MaxMind, let's see. Let me save this. And I think the geo lives over in advanced. No, it's under integration. Yeah, right here. So you just go to you click this link and you set up an account and it's free. You just you just follow the stock basically and generate your API key. It's free up to a certain usage. We've never exceeded it. It doesn't show limits here. It's very generous limits. Oh, thank you for that link, DCG. Very good. So if Tanya says that they're using flat rate, so in that case, yeah, I would go back to just use no location by default because location doesn't matter. Yep. Excellent question. All right, that brings us to the end of our questions for the week. And look at that. It is right at 2:00 on the dot Central Time. So we will start to land the plane then. So glad that you all decided to hang out here for an hour and talk through some of these questions. Lots of interesting questions today. Hopefully it was worth your time and you picked up some stuff that maybe you hadn't seen before. All right. We are back on Thursday for office hours. Again, we did have a live stream scheduled for Tuesday at one point that we may have mentioned, but we've pushed that off just a bit. We'll have more information about that for you. Again, if you are not part of our My Agency Success group, please use the link in the chat, myagencysuccess.com. That will keep you in the loop on all our upcoming live streams. You can also view our replays on our YouTube channel. Just search for hosting.com on YouTube, and there is a playlist for all of our agency success live streams there. It usually takes a day or two to get a couple of days to get those out. So they'll show up just as soon as the video team gets them rendered and out. All right, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take some time off, enjoy some rest, and get back to it on Monday. And we'll see you back on Thursday, as always, for office hours. Here is part of hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.